Welcome on into the Cougar Tracks podcast, powered by KSLSports.com. BYU football fall camp is here. Day one in the books. Just got done at practice, driving home from Provo to Murray, Utah. Yes, it's a post-practice drive edition of Cougar Tracks. Remember last year, I did these for post games. I'm expanding that to practices and press conferences this season. Should be a lot of fun sharing my thoughts as I take advantage of the drive home from Provo to Murray, Utah. That's where I live. And keep in mind, this is safe. My hands are on the steering wheel. It's a wireless microphone attached to my shirt. And it's going to be an opportunity for me to share my thoughts and takeaways from some of the things I saw, people I spoke to at BYU football practice. And fall camp day one's always a exciting, kind of adrenaline-filled day. Your head's kind of spinning. There's so many media members that typically aren't there. You know, for diehard BYU fans that maybe listen to the general media sound and you hear some of the voice, you go, I don't typically hear that person. Yeah, that's day one. Day one is filled with that. There's so many people. Everyone kind of wants a piece of it. And then once you get to day 11, everyone's just ready for a game, and the regulars are the only ones that are pretty much there. But this BYU season's interesting, and again, I'll share my thoughts on day one. But we got to start things off with Ben Bywater. Veteran linebacker announced that his college football career is done. Medical retirement, nerve damage in his shoulder. I got to say, that was kind of emotional to hear that. And, I mean, pretty cool of Ben to have like a farewell message. You know, not many guys get to do that. I wish more would come out and speak after an injury and just talk about it and share their story. It's high emotion, and you realize in that moment why maybe not many guys do, because you think about these guys, and many of them, they've probably all just only thought football their whole lives. And look, Ben Bywater is going to be successful in anything he does. He's a great guy. There's nothing holding him back, and he will find a greater purpose than simply football. But to get to the D1 level, FBS level, Power 4 level, that is insane work. And there is a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of people to get you there. And then because of an injury, a year ago at Kansas, BYU's Big 12 opener, your career's done. And at that moment, it was game 4. You thought, oh, you got about 9 games left that season. Then if you do run it back for the COVID year, you got another 12, 13. You're thinking 20 games left in your college football career. Done. And to hear him talk about it, you felt for him. He was a member of the early part of Kalani Sitake's tenure. He signed in that 2017 class with Tyler Batty, Connor Pay, guys that are key cornerstone pieces of the program this year. And he's seen it all. He's seen pretty much the entire Kalani Sitake tenure throughout it all. Went on a mission, seen BYU go independent and play in the Big 12 and a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, and now it's done. And highly productive football player, 247 tackles. When BYU got Ben Bywater, I was big on that guy's ability. I always love the linebackers with athleticism, and that was Bywater, former rugby guy at Olympus High School, and always just was a big believer in Bywater. And look, he made me look smart when he took over in 2021 and he became a full-time guy. And I remember when Keenan Peely went down in 2021, season ender, and there was this feeling of, well, what's going to happen now? And I know it did tail off a little bit, the production of that defense, because it was lights out early on that season. But Bywater was highly productive, 100 tackles that year. He stepped in nicely, and I was just like, Bywater's going to be a dude for BYU, and he was. And you feel for him because that's tough. I mean, he wanted to come back. He took advantage of the COVID year. He didn't plan to come back to BYU for 2024. He didn't. And I kind of wonder what he's going to do now. I mean, he didn't rule out the possibility of the NFL. There's still a chance he could play football, but it's pretty tough, and you feel for him. But so my heart goes out to Ben Bywater. Great guy. Always loved covering Ben Bywater. He was a great interview too. He's going to be one that's remembered in high regard in BYU football lore. But you look now at what's next, and that's one of the tough things too. After that is, Kalani Sitake is talking about Ben Bywater to the media, and then it's just, well, what's the quarterback situation like? And you just go, man, in those moments, I know there's a job to be done, and look, I'm not complaining. I love my job. It's an amazing job. But it's just like, man, the kind of the human side to you just goes, it's just tough to kind of just turn the page, but that's football, and that's sports, that's life in general. Next thing's up, and I hope that Ben's around the team this whole year, and BYU's got a pretty good linebacker unit. Even Ben said as much with, Jack Kelly, Harrison Taggart, Che Bryant Strother, Ace Kafusi. They're going to be good. Sialia Serra, but Ben was a key cornerstone. And look, I hinted at this at Big 12 Media Day that Ben Bywater, you probably shouldn't bank on him. And that was the thing, is that even Kalani laid it out to everyone. It's like, time will tell. When Kalani says messaging like that for injuries, sound the alarm. It's not a good thing. He's never going to just come out and straight up say, yeah, he's done, kaput, it's over. But he'll tell you the answer. You got to know Kalani, and you got to know his tendencies, the way he answers, and he'll tell you. And he kind of told me at Big 12 Media Day in his commentary that this was probably the end game with Ben Bywater, but it was a time will tell. Anyway, heart goes out to Ben. I think he's going to be successful in whatever he does in life. Can't wait to see that move for Ben Bywater. The quarterback position was a big storyline, and I know I said earlier it's hard to just transition, but it is what it is. Quarterback position was a big storyline and will be a big storyline for BYU in fall camp. Two-man race once again for these BYU quarterbacks. Gary Bohannon, Jake Retzlaff taking the first team reps. Kalani noted a couple times, two-man race. Said all four quarterbacks look good, two-man race. And look, I think that's the right move. I'm a believer in McKay Hillstead, but I don't think you could put him into the first team conversation right out of the gates in fall camp, because that would in essence say spring football meant nothing. And that had to mean something. Jake Retzlaff not throwing an INT had to mean something. Gary Bohannon working his way back from the shoulder injury and starting to find his groove a little bit at the end of spring ball, that has to mean something. Does it mean that McKay Hillstead is just out of sight, out of mind? No. Trace and Bourget, same thing. Those guys have to be working to give signs that this coaching staff can turn to them if they need to in the season. It's never been about week one for McKay Hillstead. There was a puncher's chance. But now that it's here and Kalani's saying two-man race, he sets the table. It's Retzlaff, it's Bohannon, and I'm here for it. And I think this is a wide-open race. Dare I say, it's darn near close to 50-50. Bohannon was asked in a media scrum by Jay Drew from the Deseret News. He was asked, the reports have been out there that you're 100%, your shoulder, you're healthy, you're good to go. Is that accurate? Bohannon simply said, that's accurate. And that's significant. And again, it was trending that way, and you saw glimpses of that at the end of spring ball. But it sets the table for a heated quarterback battle. Now, is this Jim McMahon, Mark Wilson? No. Is this a battle where you got a guy like Taysom Hill in the mix? No. Zach Wilson versus Jaren Hall? No. However, I think it's a battle that you hope iron sharpens iron, and these guys just make each other better, and they're good enough to where you get to 6, because this schedule is a bear. I know that the name value doesn't conjure up the same feelings as Texas and Oklahoma, but this is a tough schedule. And you just need to find consistent QB play from whoever. Time's ticking. You got to get the answers. This is a critical year for Kalani, for Aaron Roderick, for the whole program. And is that fair? That's not my messaging. I think it's just there's a feeling of understanding you got to get it done. Because BYU does not want to get embarrassed. They don't want to take these big L's and blowout losses. They want to put out a good football team. And good BYU football teams are tethered to the quarterback position. Kalani Sitake's best teams have come out of fall camp with quarterback battles. Now, the only question is there a quarterback in this group that's an NFL guy? I wouldn't say so right now, because the best previous teams were 2016, Taysom Hill, NFL QB. 2020, Zach Wilson, NFL QB. 2021, Jaren Hall, NFL QB. Is Retzlaff or Bohannon an NFL guy? And if so, they're going to get you to a bowl game. But I don't think any one of them right now is an NFL guy. So you're talking about a BYU team that's like get to 6 at all cost. And Bohannon, I thought today at fall camp looked pretty good. It was interesting when we went out to the Zions Bank practice fields, newly named fields, no longer a sand pit on the practice fields. They kind of tightened things up a little bit. They kind of cleaned up some of the logistical headaches on the practice field. There's even a Zions Bank corporate sponsor logo on the field, just another sign of the new era of college athletics. We go out, the team portion is split in half. Second team offense and first team offense on the other side. First team offense was led by what appeared to be Gary Bohannon. And you say the first team because he's with Connor Pay, Waylon Lapuaho, the key cogs at offensive line, and potentially running back with Hinckley Rapati, and I'll get to him a little bit later. Second team offense had Jake Retzlaff at quarterback. And many of the media were kind of like, this is new, this split team thing. We saw this last year in some practices. I know it can be easy to forget. It's been a whirlwind. I get it. It's been a whirlwind year. But this was something that Jay Hill brought with him to Weber State. He did this. I was talking to Mark Collins, and he said a lot of the structure of practices is very similar to what they did at Weber State when Jay Hill was running it back then at Weber State. And Jay brought that kind of split team reps to maximize the opportunities and the snaps with two groups. We saw this last year. It was nothing new. It's just, and even Jake Retzlaff was asked, have you guys been doing this? And Jake's like, I've been doing this since I got here. So I wasn't floored by it, but it was kind of a storyline for some in the media. Bohannon, there wasn't some groundbreaking play calls. It was very vanilla during the time that we saw in the media observation. Like, it was nothing groundbreaking by any means. But what I did see from Bohannon that I really liked in this quarterback day one battle in the media observation window that we saw is that he was just decisive. He got it off, the quick decisions, and one of his favorite targets appeared to be Parker Kingston, and Kingston's speed was kind of off the charts. He turned some short intermediate throws and turned them into some nice gains, chain movers. And man, when you talk about an offense last year that struggled as much as they did, remember how many third and longs BYU was in a season ago? Imagine if you can get from, first and 10, you get a quick hitter to Parker Kingston, and you're in second and 3, or you're yet again first and 10. How much that changes the feeling, the dynamic of how BYU operates. Far too often last season, it was 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11. When you're behind the sticks like they were so many times, that's going to be a problem for any quarterback. And I just thought that was kind of noteworthy, because you just need a quarterback that goes in and he's not going to hesitate. He's going to be decisive. He knows this playbook inside and out, and he's going to be operating. And I thought Bohannon was pretty quick and decisive. Now, my co-host on Cougar Sports Saturday, Matt Biamonte, he was absorbing a lot of Jake Retzlaff, and he said good things. Like, I can only speak to what I was seeing from Bohannon and then McKay Hillstead, but I liked what I saw from Bohannon. And first team offense, day one. Will that be the case tomorrow? Could change. Will that be the case when the media is allowed back on day 3? I could see it changing again. Because some of this could be a game to just confuse the media, for all we know. Who knows what the theory and the purpose is behind it, but every snap matters, and we saw Bohannon with the first team rep offense on Wednesday, and he looked pretty natural. He looked pretty comfortable, and you saw a quarterback who did look healthy. And because there were times in spring where he just did not look healthy at all. At all. And it was one of the big reasons why I came out of spring feeling like Retzlaff is the guy. But Bohannon looked like the Bohannon that we saw at 2021 in Baylor. Remember going into that BYU game, no interceptions. BYU was the first team to pick him off. And that was a really good Baylor team. That kind of looked like Bohannon today. And look, Bohannon still, coming out of that season, he lost his job to Blake Shapen. So it's not like, again, Bohannon's the end-all, be-all for BYU, but these are the guys you got. You got to develop them and get the most out of them. And I thought Bohannon looked pretty solid today. Quarterback 3 was McKay Hillstead. And Hillstead, there were moments where he struggled, clearly. First practice at BYU, still learning the playbook. You saw a little bit of the struggle. I'm fascinated to think what he can be at the end of this season, if he's called upon, if needed, but also in 2025 and 2026. Because one of the things with Hillstead, if you did start Bohannon this year, and let's say hypothetically Bohannon is the guy wire to wire, that would be the ideal scenario, just to get a quarterback to go wire to wire. Unlikely, but hey, maybe it could happen. If he did, it sets the table for Hillstead and whoever else is in that quarterback unit, Retzlaff included, to compete next year. And Hillstead's got some juice to him. You just see moments with him. He's got some potential that I'm fascinated to see more snaps, more reps for him, what he can be. He's still incredibly young. And there was a moment the defense got what would be deemed a sack, and it was a newcomer, Luke Tuamalatai, defensive tackle from the JUCO ranks. He looked pretty good on his first day at fall camp. But Hillstead, it was a mixed bag. But I think there's some flashes where you go, I like what that guy can bring. And he looked a little bit taller. I wasn't, when I watched him, I didn't say, oh, he looks out of place. Because so much is made about his height. He didn't look like he didn't belong physically. And I thought that was kind of interesting when I was watching and observing him. It wasn't this complete, whoa, how is this guy in the huddle commanding a power 4 huddle? Like, no, he looked like he belonged. So I think, I don't want to say he's bigger, but he just physically didn't look like a quarterback that didn't mean to be there. The RB1 with Gary Bohannon was Hinckley Folau Ropati. And I will say, Hinckley Ropati looked really good. I liked what Hinckley Ropati was putting down. There was a play where even Bohannon's ready to call it a touchdown. He broke free, Ropati did. He looked good. And quick burst. Look, Ropati was someone in 2020 when he signed, and it's crazy to think a JUCO transfer is in his 5th year in the program. How does that work? COVID, baby. It's wonderful. But Ropati in 2020 was gaining traction to be right there next to Tyler Algier in the top 2 ball carriers in fall camp. Then he suffered an injury in that camp during COVID. And then it's just, he hasn't done much since. It's where you're thinking, you're going to hand the keys to Ropati? Now, Kalani has had this quiet confidence about this team to the point where it reminds me a little bit of when 2020, that same year that I mentioned, they lost Devontae Henry Cole. Remember that name? He dips unexpectedly. Kalani wasn't fazed because he's like, Henry Cole knows what we got at running back, and he was probably intimidated by the competition. And you're thinking, that guy was going to be your RB1. Ends up being Tyler Algier, becomes an all-timer, and Ropati was right there next to him. Ropati, there's been this quiet belief that he's one of the top dogs in the backfield. He's going into his senior year, big year for Ropati. I thought he looked impressive. Now, I didn't see LJ Martin at practice. Now, Kalani was asked about him, and Kalani said that LJ practiced. Again, I personally did not see LJ. That was just my personal view. And look, just for reference, anyone that's listened to me over the years, you know I'm just observing every detail. I kind of get teased at the media sessions by the media for bringing all this gear and equipment because, like, I'll be in practice and I got binoculars even on field level because I want to see it all. I want to provide the best coverage to you, the fans. I know you guys don't get as much as you once did, and I want to be that connection for you guys. And me personally, I didn't see LJ in my scanning of the field at fall camp practice, but Kalani did say LJ practiced. So we'll take that for what it's worth on LJ. And look, I spoke to LJ a couple weeks back at an NIL event, and the interview played on Cougar Sports Saturday, which you can go listen to on the podcast. Just search Cougar Sports Saturday. And he told me he'd be good to go. I mean, there's been rumblings about his health status and where's he at on that front. But LJ's added 20 pounds extra to his frame. He's now 225. If healthy, him and Hinckley, it's a nice duo. I still believe they should have got a transfer portal running back just as a safety valve, but I know transfers want to get the immediate satisfaction of being RB1, and if it works out to the likes of Tyler Algier, by all means, it works. I think LG's got star potential, and if Falau can produce and produce at a high level for 1 year, great. You just, again, you got to get to 6, and if you get to 6, it's a dang good football season for BYU. Defensively, I mentioned Tua Malatai. I also spoke with Mark Collins, new BYU cornerback from Weber State. He missed all of spring ball due to an ACL injury that he suffered at Weber State. He's fully recovered now. He's good to go. He went through his first practice today as a BYU Cougar. And he acknowledged to me that it's a little bit shaking off the rust. But, he's going to be in contention. Maury Bamba, those are going to be some of the guys contending for that cornerback 1 spot, along with Jacob Robinson, who's one of the best cornerbacks in the Big 12. They got to figure out that other cornerback spot. I loved the safety competition at BYU. I think it's going to be a fascinating position to kind of see how it all shakes out there. Crew Wakely spoke with Matt Baiamonte, and Crew Wakely just gave rave reviews about this defense. And Crew, he missed spring ball due to injury. He's back fully healthy, ready to go. And, Crew, I thought last season was a pretty good player. I mean, the good things from BYU last year get forgotten because, well, the final scores were a lot of bad. And when you end the season on a 5-game skid, you forget a lot of the good. And Crew Wakely, there were moments where he made some mistakes like any player, but I thought he did a good job. And you just wonder how it's all going to shake out and who plays when, and there could be rotation, but there's good options there at that safety position for BYU. A guy physically that I just think looks the part, and I bring up physically because that's kind of a thing in fall camp. You're like noticing the trends of who looks bigger, who looks new and improved body type going into the fall. Defensive end, Bodie Schoonover. He is ripped. He is built. I'm not expecting Bodie to suddenly be, first team or second team guy, but in a perfect world, he's second team, and he's in position that 2025 and beyond, after Tyler Batty, Bodie Schoonover's one of your dudes and one of the main guys. He looks good physically. And again, it's kind of just one of those store it away and kind of let it sit a little bit and see what it can become. Because you do got to think you're only, 12 games away, from Tyler Batty no longer being on that D-line. And you're thinking about this year. I get it. But you also want to have the next big thing on that D-end spot because you need star power at D-end. It is a critical position. And I think this D-line as a whole is going to be good. I don't know if they're going to be great. I don't know if they're going to be, one of the best pass rush D-lines in college football. I'm not saying that. But from the low bar they've been at the past few years, I think they're going to make a lot of growth. And I think that this group's going to be a lot better than they've been. I like what I saw from Logan Latui. Zay Banya's earned some buzz, some high praise. That was a good sign because Zay, like many guys on the defense last year, that kind of underperformed. Same with Tyler Batty. Even though Batty was a second team all Big 12, there's room to grow for Batty. And he acknowledged that at Big 12 Media Day. So there's good things happening with this team. And the thing is that the low expectations, I don't think the team's necessarily worried about that. They're going to use it as motivation. I'm sure the cliche, no one believed in us, blah, blah, blah. But I just kind of think they're in the right headspace as a team where they're tuning out the NIL, they're tuning out the deals. There's no more of this transition to the Big 12. You're already in it. Just go play. Just go play ball. No one's expecting anything from you. Just go play. Just go compete. And let's see how it falls. Now, you lose to Southern Illinois, it's going to be Meltdown City. But I don't think you're going to do that. Still, I think this team's in a good headspace. They just seem a little bit loose. Does that equal 7 wins, 8 wins? No. But it's just, there's just a good kind of intriguing vibe that I've never felt really at a BYU fall camp. Look, I've been covering this team in the media since 2014. And, I've been following BYU football. This is my 30th season following BYU football. And it's a different vibe. It's hard to describe. It's very unique. It's one of one in the feelings around the program that I've never seen before. So it's going to be interesting. And we'll have you covered throughout fall camp and, of course, the season. It is locked and loaded. I was at the student-athlete building for a good couple hours after practice concluded. Even some of the SIDs were like, you just posting up, making this your office. I don't know if they were upset about that or not. I don't know. No one was really talking to me on level 3, but it's okay. Nonetheless, we're locked and loaded. It's time for another season of BYU football, and it should be a fun one. I'm excited to see the twists and turns of this team and the ups and downs, because there will be downs, there will be adversity, but how does this team respond? It's going to be one of the big questions, I think, for this team, and we'll have more in-depth observation going forward. I'll admit a big focus of my observation period was on the quarterbacks on day one, but still got a lot of data, a lot of commentary, and we'll have more coming up in the coming days on KSLSports.com, here on the Cougar Tracks podcast, Cougar Sports Saturday on KSL News Radio, noon to 3, KSLSports.com, the KSL Sports Zone, KSL 5 TV. We've got you covered, safe to say. So it's going to be a fun football season. I'll talk to you next time here on the Cougar Tracks podcast, and it's powered by KSLSports.com.